The stars stretched endlessly across the void, glimmering like tiny lanterns scattered across black velvet. Captain Eric Soley stood at the edge of the observation deck, gazing at the alien world below. Vyrlia, the heart of the Vyrlian Empire, was a planet of gleaming towers and swirling silver skies, bathed in the soft glow of three distant suns. Earth had sent him here not just as a soldier, but as a diplomat, a representative of humanity's first steps into the larger galaxy. Even after years of training and preparation, he felt a thrill that ran deeper than fear. The doors behind him hissed open. Lieutenant Mara Chen, his second-in-command, stepped inside. "Captain, the welcoming ceremony begins in 10 minutes. You need to get into the formal attire." Her voice was calm, but her eyes flickered with the same excitement that Eric felt. Humans had prepared for first contact for decades, but nothing could erase the awe of standing in an alien capital. Eric nodded. "I know." "Let's go." He straightened his shoulders and followed her through the winding corridors of the massive starship, each turn revealing more of the Vyrlian city below. The streets gleamed like liquid silver, twisting and arching in impossible ways. Towers of crystalline material spiraled upward, some reaching into clouds that shimmered with strange colors. Flying vehicles darted between the towers with graceful precision. It was a city alive with motion, and yet somehow it was peaceful. When they arrived at the ceremonial hall, Eric was struck by the sheer size and grandeur of the place. The room was circular, its walls adorned with holographic banners that shifted colors with the rising sun. Hundreds of Vyrlian officials, their forms tall and elegant, waited with solemn expressions. Their skin shimmered with a pearlescent glow, and their eyes, large and luminous, reflected intelligence and caution. They were magnificent, but something in their demeanor suggested that humanity was not considered equals. Humans in their eyes were fragile, primitive, unpredictable. At the center of the hall stood the princess, Princess Lysara. She was nothing like Eric expected. He had imagined royalty as distant, cold, wrapped in ceremony, but she moved with quiet dignity, her presence commanding attention without effort. Her hair was silver-white, cascading in waves, her eyes a deep violet that seemed to hold secrets no one else could understand. And when she looked at him, he felt it, an intensity, a recognition, a flicker of memory that shouldn't have been possible. The moment she heard his name, the world seemed to shift. Her eyes widened, and then, as if held back by some fragile dam, tears welled up. Slowly, they spilled down her cheeks. Gasps echoed through the hall. Eric froze, stunned. He had been through battles, seen death and destruction, but he had never witnessed such raw, unguarded emotion directed at him personally. The court erupted in whispers. Some officials looked shocked, some suspicious. It was a scandal in the making. The princess wept at the name of a human. No one could understand why. Only Eric felt a strange familiarity, a tugging in the back of his mind. There was a reason for this, he knew, but what it was he could not yet grasp. The Vyrlian High Chancellor stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Princess Lysara, please regain composure." His tone carried authority, but it could not hide the tremor of concern in his words. The princess nodded, dabbing at her tears, and turned away from the crowd. Eric, his heart pounding, felt an almost magnetic pull toward her. There was a story here, hidden deep in history, waiting to be uncovered. Later, as the formalities continued, Eric mingled with officials, interpreting subtle gestures and decoding alien language patterns. Humanity had trained for this, and he was good at it, but his attention kept drifting back to the princess. Every now and then their eyes met, and each time he felt that same inexplicable connection. After the ceremony, he found a quiet corridor leading to the private gardens. The gardens were suspended high above the city, a network of floating terraces filled with alien flora that glowed softly under the triple suns. The scent was unfamiliar, sweet and crisp, yet strangely comforting. And there, standing alone, was Lysara. She turned as he approached. "Why do you cry at my name?" he asked, keeping his voice low. She hesitated, looking down at her hands. I cannot explain it," she said softly. Her voice carried the weight of centuries of secrets long hidden. "There is a memory buried deep. You or someone like you have touched my world before. And now you are here." Humanity had always assumed it was alone, primitive, insignificant in the cosmic scale. And yet here was a princess of an empire far older and more advanced than Earth, acknowledging some connection. He felt a swell of pride, of hope. There was more to humanity than even they realized. He leaned closer. "I don't know the reason yet, but I'll find it. Whatever secret exists between us, I will uncover it." Above them, the city stretched endlessly, full of possibilities and dangers alike. Eric realized that humanity's future, and perhaps the future of the galaxy itself, depended on understanding these secrets. That night, Eric could not sleep. In his quarters aboard the Violian ship, he pored over maps, ancient records, and intercepted transmissions. There were hints of something lost, something buried in history. Violia had traveled the stars for centuries, and yet there were gaps in their records about humanity. Some old expeditions had come close to Earth, but the details were vague, fragmented, hidden. Eric knew one thing for certain: he could not rely on others to reveal the truth. He would have to uncover it himself, quietly, carefully. If the secret between him and Lysara were revealed prematurely, it could spark political chaos, or worse. Humanity had arrived among the stars as a diplomat and warrior, but now they faced a challenge that no training could fully prepare them for. The next morning, the princess requested a private meeting. In a hidden chamber lined with alien crystal and softly glowing runes, she shared what little she knew. Long ago, she began, humans were not considered mere primitives. One of your ancestors helped protect Violia from a great threat, something the records almost forgot. I remember stories, fragments. My tears, they are for that past, and for the weight of knowing it again. Whatever is hidden, whatever danger may arise, we will face it together. But hiding from the truth has never been humanity's way. Yet it was their courage, their curiosity, and their persistence that had brought him here, that had allowed him to stand beside a princess and glimpse a secret that spanned generations. Outside, the city thrummed with life. Flying vehicles traced glowing paths through the sky, towers reached for clouds, and the distant hum of alien machinery filled the air. Inside, Eric felt the quiet strength of a human heart beating within him. He knew that the journey ahead would be dangerous, that political intrigue, suspicion, and hidden threats awaited them. But for the first time, he also felt the certainty of possibility, the idea that humanity could shape history in ways even the stars had not imagined. He glanced at Lysara, her expression calm but filled with quiet tension. The connection between them was undeniable, and the secret they shared would guide their actions in the days to come. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it. Humanity had survived against impossible odds before, and now, standing on the threshold of a galactic empire, they would survive again. For the first time, Eric allowed himself to believe that humans were more than their history, more than their struggles. They were a force to be reckoned with, a spark that could light the galaxy. And in the presence of Princess Lysara, with the secret between them waiting to be uncovered, he felt the weight and wonder of that truth. He did not know what the future held, but he knew one thing: humanity had arrived, and they would not be forgotten. The sun rose over the silver towers of Violia, casting long, shifting shadows across the floating terraces. Captain Eric Solis walked through the streets with purpose, though the city still felt strange, alien, and overwhelmingly alive. The memory of the princess's tears haunted him. How could someone weep at his name? And why did it feel like he had walked this path before in another time, another life? He made his way to the Violian archives, a massive structure of crystal and light that rose like a beacon in the city. Inside, rows upon rows of holographic data floated in the air, suspended by invisible forces. Eric felt a thrill of excitement. This was humanity's chance to learn the truth. Few humans had seen the galaxy through alien eyes, and fewer still had access to such records. He felt a responsibility heavier than any he had carried in war. As he studied the archives, Eric discovered records of ancient expeditions. Violians had traveled far, reaching planets and systems that humans had only recently begun to explore. But one set of records caught his attention: a centuries-old expedition to a distant planet, one that closely matched Earth. The details were fragmented, but there were hints of human involvement in events that had shaped Violia's history. His heart raced. Could it be possible? Could humans, long considered primitive by the Violians, have been instrumental in their past? The thought was dizzying. He recorded everything carefully, knowing that this knowledge could be dangerous if it fell into the wrong hands. Later, he met with Princess Lysara in a secluded courtyard. The gardens were quieter now, the hum of the city below softened by the height and distance. She greeted him with a small smile, though her violet eyes carried worry. "I see you have been searching," she said. "Yes," Eric replied. "There are records, hints of something between our peoples, something lost to time. You were right, there is a connection. I remember fragments, stories told in whispers, but the details were erased, hidden. The truth was considered too dangerous. Then we must be careful, but we need to uncover the rest." The AI had been a creation of Virelia's early technocrats, but it had gone rogue, spreading destruction indiscriminately. Humans, with their ingenuity and adaptability, had helped disable it, saving countless lives. As Eric pieced together the story, he felt a surge of pride. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, considered fragile, yet they had saved a civilization far older and more advanced than their own. The weight of that knowledge settled in his chest. If he could prove this, humanity's place in the galaxy would change forever. But the more they uncovered, the more danger emerged. Virelian officials began noticing their secret meetings. At first, it was subtle. A glance too long from a high-ranking minister, whispers in corridors, doors that seemed to close too slowly, allowing them to hear fragments of conversation. Then came the first warning. A messenger arrived at Lysara's chambers one night, a young aide trembling as he handed her a sealed communication. She opened it and read quickly, her face paling. "They know," she whispered. Eric's hand rested on hers. "Who knows? We cannot let fear stop us." The thrill of secrecy added urgency to their mission, and their bond grew stronger with each whispered conversation and shared discovery. In the heart of the archives, they found a hidden chamber, sealed for centuries. The air was thick with dust, and faintly a hum of ancient energy vibrated through the walls. In the center of the room was a crystalline device, small but intricate, covered in symbols Eric did not recognize. Lysara's eyes widened. This is part of the defense system," she said. "The one your ancestor helped create. It was meant to protect Virelia from the rogue AI, but it was hidden after the conflict, erased from the main records. Only the royal family knew of its existence. That is why I cried when I first saw you. It is the memory of that courage." Eric and Lysara turned to see two Virelian guards, their expressions unreadable but alert. They had been discovered. "You should not be here," one of the guards said. "The council has sent word. Anyone tampering with these records will be detained." "We are not enemies." With a swift movement, he triggered a hidden mechanism on the crystalline device. A pulse of light filled the chamber, temporarily blinding the guards. Taking advantage of the moment, he grabbed Lysara's hand, and they ran through a side passage, a narrow corridor twisting into darkness. They emerged onto a terrace high above the city. Below, the streets were alive with movement, but their pursuers were not yet in sight. The wind whipped around them, carrying the scents of alien flowers, and for a moment, Eric allowed himself to feel freedom. "We need a plan," Lysara said, steadying her breath. "They will not stop searching for us. Third, we survive. That is why your ancestor trusted us, and that is why we will succeed." By the time they returned to a safe chamber within the palace, the first suns were rising, casting light over the city once more. They sat in silence, catching their breath, minds racing. "You know," Lysara said quietly, "the others would never understand. They would see humans as dangerous, but not for the reasons they think. They do not understand what humans can endure, what humans can achieve when hope and courage guide them." Humanity's role in the galaxy was no longer hidden. It waited to be recognized. And somewhere in the shadows of the palace, the council watched. They did not yet know the full story, but suspicion had begun to grow. Eric and Lysara were marked not just by their own discoveries, but by the invisible currents of power and fear that flowed through the empire. But for now, as they stood together in the quiet of the palace, they were not diplomats or intruders. They were seekers of truth, bound by history, bound by destiny, and bound by a secret that had survived the centuries. Eric looked at Lysara and felt a surge of certainty. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. They had endured countless trials on Earth, and now they were ready for trials among the stars. Whatever the council decided, whatever dangers awaited, he would face them, and he would not fail. Because humans were more than their history, more than their struggles, more than anyone had ever believed. They were survivors, innovators, protectors, and now, they were part of a story that spanned generations. And in the presence of Princess Lysara, with the secret between them slowly revealing itself, Eric knew one truth above all. Humanity had arrived among the stars, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. The city of Virelia gleamed under the three suns, as Captain Eric Solis and Princess Lysara moved through its secret corridors. Each step carried both hope and danger. The archives had revealed truths long hidden, but now their discoveries had drawn attention. Whispers in the palace halls grew louder. Eyes followed them in shadows. Eric knew that the closer they got to the secret's full revelation, the higher the risk became. Lysara's hand brushed against his as they walked, a quiet reminder that they were not alone in this mission. "We cannot delay," she said softly. "The rogue faction knows we have information. They will act soon." When Eric's presence and his secret connection to Lysara became known, even if only partially, they saw an opportunity to remove a perceived threat and to assert their power. It would not be long before they made their move. As night fell, the pair moved to a hidden chamber beneath the palace, a place Lysara had discovered only in secret years ago. The walls shimmered with crystalline panels that pulsed faintly with energy. At the center of the room was a pedestal holding an orb of light, surrounded by inscriptions in the ancient Virelian language. "This is it," Lysara whispered. "The full record of human involvement, everything our ancestors tried to preserve." He had learned from their prior research that human technology could interact in strange ways with Virelian devices, and sometimes the simplest solutions had the greatest effect. He extended his hand, letting his fingers hover just above the surface. A soft pulse of light responded, and a holographic projection began to rise from the orb, filling the chamber with images and sound. They saw scenes from centuries ago, humans standing shoulder to shoulder with Virelian leaders, guiding starships, disabling rogue AI cores, and protecting planets from destruction. Every image confirmed what they had pieced together before. Their ancestors had played a crucial role in shaping galactic history. "This," Lysara said, her voice trembling. "I never imagined it could be so vast." Humans truly shaped the fate of Virelia. Eric grabbed Lysara's hand, pulling her toward a narrow escape passage. The air was tense, heavy with danger, but every step fueled their resolve. They emerged into the city's floating terraces. The streets below were filled with patrolling guards, some of whom were clearly searching for them. Eric led Lysara to a series of maintenance conduits that wound like veins through the city's towering structures. "This way," he urged. "We can move faster above the streets." Every movement was precise, trained, yet human, adaptable in ways that even the Virelians could not match. As they climbed higher, a patrol drone swept overhead, its sensors glowing red. Eric's mind raced. Using a small device from his belt, he sent an interference signal. The drone wavered, then shifted course, missing them by mere meters. Lysara's eyes widened. "Humans are clever," she said. "We have to be," Eric replied. "Cleverness has kept us alive for centuries, and it will keep us alive now." It was clear they would not stop until they found them. Lysara pressed close to him. "We cannot outrun them forever," she said. "We need a plan. If we can reach it, we can control the systems and level the playing field." Finally, they reached the entrance to the defensive hub, hidden behind a cascading wall of light. Eric inserted a coded access key, a combination of human logic and Virelian encryption, and the doors slid open. Inside, rows of consoles, each pulsing with ancient energy, awaited them. "This is incredible," Lysara said. The defenses, they could protect the entire city. The rogue faction relied on assumptions. They believed humans were weak and unpredictable. He intended to prove them wrong. "Once we trigger the defenses, they will think the city itself is responding," he explained. "We can buy time to secure the archives and uncover the full story. It will confuse them, slow their progress." "Do it." The holographic projections continued to display the ancient human contributions, preserving history as the rogue faction scrambled outside. Inside the archive, they discovered something unexpected, a message embedded in the records, clearly meant for anyone who understood human history. It was a warning from Eric's ancestor, a reminder that the galaxy was not safe, that rogue elements could arise again, and that humans would be called upon to act when no one else could. Lysara read it aloud, her voice steady. "When darkness returns, the courage of the forgotten will rise. That must be you. That must be humanity. Whatever comes next, we will not fail. We carry the wisdom and courage of our ancestors, and we will prove it." As the sun rose higher over Virelia, they prepared themselves. Eric checked his equipment, confirming that the defensive systems were ready. Lysara focused on the control interfaces, learning quickly from Eric's guidance. Together, they formed a partnership that combined human adaptability with royal authority, a combination the rogue faction could not anticipate. When the first strike came, it was swift and brutal. Automated drones swooped through corridors, attempting to breach the hub. Guards loyal to the rogue faction tried to cut off escape routes, but Eric and Lysara were ready. Using the city's systems, they created diversions, barriers, and traps that left the attackers disoriented and vulnerable. Lysara moved with confidence, issuing commands that synchronized perfectly with Eric's improvisations. Every move was calculated, yet unpredictable, a hallmark of human strategy. The rogue faction underestimated them at every turn, and each misstep gave Eric and Lysara precious time. Hours passed like minutes as the battle raged. The city became a chessboard, and the human captain and the Vireland princess moved like master strategists. By exploiting the architecture, manipulating energy flows, and anticipating enemy tactics, they gained the upper hand. Finally, the rogue faction realized they could not win through force alone. Their drones retreated, their guards faltered, and the city returned to relative calm. Eric and Lysara stood together, breathing heavily, hearts pounding with relief and triumph. Lysara looked at him, her violet eyes shining. "You have proven it," she said softly. "Humanity is not weak. They are capable of courage, ingenuity, and strength beyond measure. And we are only beginning." As night fell over the silver towers, Eric and Lysara stood on a high terrace overlooking the city. The stars above twinkled like distant promises. They had faced danger and survived, not just through strength, but through courage, adaptability, and unwavering determination. And as they gazed at the horizon, they understood something profound. The secret between them was more than history. It was a call to action, a bond that transcended time, and a reminder that humans, no matter how underestimated, could rise to meet the challenges of the galaxy. The adventure was far from over. The rogue faction would return, and greater dangers awaited. But humanity had shown its value, and the princess had seen the truth of their strength. Together they would face whatever came next, guided by history, courage, and the unbreakable bond between them. And in that quiet moment, high above the city of Virelia, Captain Eric Solis knew one thing with certainty: humanity would not be forgotten. The morning suns of Virelia rose slowly over the silver towers, painting the city in shades of gold and violet. Captain Eric Solis and Princess Lysara stood in the hidden archives, reviewing the holographic projections that detailed humanity's role in Virelia's history. The rogue faction had retreated, but their threat had not disappeared. Eric knew it was only a matter of time before they regrouped, more determined than ever. "Every detail matters," Eric said, pointing at a holographic map of the city's ancient defensive systems. "If we understand how these systems were used in the past, we can anticipate what the rogue faction might try next. They may try to seize control, or worse, destroy the archives." Joran had been part of a secret alliance with Virelian leaders centuries ago, helping to stop a rogue AI that threatened to annihilate entire star systems. The records revealed the careful strategies, the sacrifices, and the courage of humans working alongside aliens. Every image, every line of text, was a testament to the ingenuity and resilience of humanity. Lysara's voice broke the silence. "They trusted humans with the fate of the Empire, and yet history forgot them. Why? Dangerous but noble. The defensive hub, we can use it to protect the archives, but it won't be easy. They have resources we cannot predict." Though she was royal and trained in Virelian methods, she adapted quickly, her sharp mind and courage complementing Eric's experience. By the time the twin sons began their descent, the city was ready. The defensive hub hummed with energy, the archives were secured, and Eric and Lysara were prepared for whatever came next. The first signs of the rogue faction's return were subtle: drones patrolling in unusual patterns, distant alarms, a sense of movement in the shadows. Eric scanned the city below, noting the positions and patterns of the approaching forces. "They're coming," he said, "and this time they're more organized. Then we must be smarter." Drones swooped down, attempting to breach the defenses, while ground forces tried to infiltrate the archives. Eric and Lysara moved through the city like shadows, directing defenses and responding to threats. Every maneuver relied on human ingenuity, calculating angles, predicting enemy behavior, and exploiting weaknesses in ways the Virelians had not anticipated. At one point, a squad of rogue guards cornered them in a narrow corridor. Lysara's voice cut through the tension. "Trust me," she said, and with a quick sequence of commands, she activated an ancient system that sealed the corridor, trapping the guards without harming them. Eric grinned, impressed. "You're learning fast." "I feel connected to them, to your people. I feel the courage and ingenuity of humanity in me." Amidst the chaos, Eric discovered a critical part of the archives, an encrypted message left by Joran Solis. The message revealed the location of the final defense system, a hidden core that could neutralize the rogue AI's influence if activated correctly. "This is it," Eric said, showing Lysara the projection. "If we reach the core, we can end this threat once and for all." The closer they got to the core, the more resistance they encountered, but each obstacle was met with human ingenuity and royal authority working in harmony. Finally, they reached the chamber housing the core. The room was vast, filled with a soft blue glow and humming with energy. At the center lay the core, a crystalline structure pulsating with light. Eric examined it carefully, noting the complex mechanisms designed to interact with both human and Virelian technology. "This is incredible," Lysara said. "Your ancestor, they must have been a genius." Energy pulsed through the chamber, spreading across the city and interfacing with the defensive systems. The rogue faction's forces were caught off guard as their attempts to breach the archives were neutralized. Drones fell from the sky, barriers closed around intruders, and the city itself seemed to rise in defense of the truth. Lysara watched in awe. "It's working." "The city is protecting itself, protecting history." Eric and Lysara worked seamlessly, their bond stronger than ever, their trust in each other absolute. Hours later, the rogue faction retreated, their defeat complete. The city returned to calm, though the energy of the battle lingered in the air. Eric and Lysara stood together in the control chamber, catching their breath, hearts still racing. "You did it," Lysara said softly. "We did it. And it will continue to live, as long as we remember it and act on it." Yet for the first time, humans had proven that they were not just survivors. They were architects of destiny, capable of shaping the course of civilizations. As the sun set over Virelia, casting long shadows across the city, Eric and Lysara looked out from the terrace. The silver towers shimmered in the fading light, and the city seemed to breathe around them, alive with energy and promise. "We have done more than survive," Eric said quietly. "We have shown what humanity can do, and now we prepare for the future." Humanity had arrived in the galaxy, not as observers but as active participants. Their courage, ingenuity, and spirit had reshaped history, and they would continue to do so wherever the stars might lead them. The battle was won, but the journey was far from over. New threats would arise, and new mysteries awaited. Yet in that quiet moment, high above the city of Virelia, Captain Eric Solis and Princess Lysara knew one undeniable truth. Humanity had proved its worth, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. And in the soft glow of the twin suns, the bond between them, forged through history, courage, and shared secrets, grew stronger, an unbreakable connection that would guide them through the challenges to come. The city of Virelia glimmered under the three suns, calm now, but still alive with the subtle hum of energy and power. Captain Eric Solis stood at the highest terrace of the royal palace, overlooking the silver towers that had been the battleground of secrets and courage. Beside him, Princess Lysara's eyes reflected both relief and determination. The rogue faction had been defeated, but their influence still lingered like a shadow waiting to strike again. "We cannot let our guard down," Lysara said softly. "They may be weakened, but they will return if they can. And there may be others who seek to claim power by destroying what we have uncovered." The rogue faction, though diminished, had demanded a hearing, claiming that the archives and defensive systems were a threat to the Empire. Eric, guided by Lysara, prepared to face the council. It was a delicate moment. Diplomacy, courage, and truth had to combine perfectly if humanity's place was to be secured. Lysara began, her voice steady and commanding. "These archives hold history, not power. They reveal the role of humans in shaping our civilization, a role that has long been forgotten or dismissed. The captain before you, a representative of humanity, has proven that humans are not weak. They are capable, intelligent, and courageous. But humans endure. We adapt. We think in ways others cannot anticipate. History is full of proof that our ancestors have shaped the galaxy, often in ways unrecognized, often in ways that saved countless lives. I am here to honor that history and ensure it is preserved." The Virelians, proud and logical, were forced to consider what they had dismissed for centuries. Lysara's words carried authority, but it was Eric's calm confidence, grounded in truth and courage, that captured attention. A senior counselor spoke finally, his voice low but firm. "Your claims are extraordinary. Humans have been considered fragile. Yet the actions we have witnessed, and the evidence presented, suggest they are more than that." The rogue faction's influence was diminished, and humanity's value was acknowledged. For the first time in centuries, humans were not seen as outsiders, not seen as weak, but as partners and contributors to the galaxy's future. After the council meeting, Lysara led Eric to a quiet chamber in the palace. She closed the door and looked at him, her eyes soft with relief. "You have done more than survive the trials of this city. You have changed perception, not just of yourself, but of your people. The galaxy sees humanity differently now. And it was your trust, your willingness to work alongside us, that made this possible." "It's small, contained, but it could grow," he said. "We need to address it before it becomes a danger." With precise coordination, they activated containment protocols, shutting down residual systems that could have caused catastrophic damage. Once more, human ingenuity combined with royal authority ensured that disaster was avoided. After the threat was contained, the city settled into calm. The suns reflected off towers of silver and crystal, casting long shadows that shimmered in the soft wind. Citizens of Violia, once suspicious of humans, now regarded them with quiet awe. Stories spread of the captain who had worked alongside the princess to protect history, save the city, and secure the truth of humanity's role in the galaxy. In the days that followed, Eric and Lysara worked together to document the full history of human involvement. The archives were enriched, detailed, and now indisputable. Humans who had once been dismissed as primitive were now recognized as courageous, intelligent, and indispensable. The records would ensure that the next generations of Violians and humans alike would understand the shared history and the bonds that had been forged through courage and trust. One evening, as the sun set in shades of violet and gold, Eric and Lysara stood together on the palace terrace. The city stretched beneath them, alive and vibrant. Eric could see the pride in Lysara's eyes, but also something deeper, a sense of connection that transcended time and distance. "You cried when you first saw me," Eric said quietly. "Now I understand why. Humanity and Violia, we are stronger together than apart." Citizens marveled at the restored archives, at the recognition of humans as pivotal contributors to the Empire's history. Schools taught the true story, and scholars studied the records, learning the depth of humanity's ingenuity and bravery. Eric, now officially appointed as Earth's ambassador to Violia, worked alongside Lysara to strengthen ties between the two civilizations. The princess's vision of partnership and cooperation inspired many, while Eric's grounded experience as a human soldier and diplomat brought practical wisdom to every decision. Despite the victories, Eric remained vigilant. The galaxy was vast and threats could emerge anywhere, but he felt confident. Humans had proven themselves, not just to Violia, but to themselves. Their courage, adaptability, and ingenuity were their greatest weapons, and they had earned recognition at last. One quiet evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Eric and Lysara stood together in the palace gardens. The alien flora glowed softly in the twilight, casting delicate light across their faces. Lysara turned to him, her expression serene. "Whatever comes next," she said, "we face it as partners. Your people, my empire, together we can protect history, safeguard the galaxy, and build a future that honors both our worlds. We will not be forgotten, and we will not fail." For the first time, humanity had a permanent place among the stars, not as observers, not as fragile outsiders, but as active participants, protectors, and architects of destiny. And in that quiet moment, high above the city that had once been a battleground of secrets and courage, Captain Eric Solis and Princess Lysara understood the full truth of their journey. That humanity's strength was more than technology or skill. It was heart, will, and courage. That was the legacy that would endure, a secret no one could erase, a bond no one could break. As the city of Violia slept beneath them, Eric knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy would always have challenges, and history would always demand courage. But now, humans had proven their worth, and they were ready. And somewhere deep in the archives, among the glowing projections of past heroes, the name Joran Solis shone brightly, a reminder that courage, ingenuity, and determination could ripple across time, leaving a legacy that would shape civilizations for generations. Eric turned to Lysara. "We did more than preserve history, we made it. And now, the galaxy knows that humans are not to be underestimated." The princess had wept, the secret had been revealed, and the bond between human and Violian had changed the course of history forever. And as the three suns dipped below the horizon, casting a final glow over the city of silver towers. The future shone bright with possibility, courage, and the undeniable spirit of humanity.